today we'll be focusing on biblical perspectives on witchcraft, because witchcraft is a problem in many African societies. But today we'll be focusing on the biblical perspective of it. Next month, God willing, we will be looking at it from the Islamic perspective as well. So I would want to say you are all welcome. We will have a main presenter, and then there would be a response. Without much ado, I would like to introduce our speakers for today. Our main presenter is the Executive Director of the Sanneh Institute, who has been a professor of Islamic Studies, Christian-Muslim Relations, African Christianity, and has written a lot on not only religion, but also on issues at the intersection of religion and society. And he has been the founding director of the Sanneh Institute. He is the Reverend Professor John Azumah, who would be our main speaker for today. Then after he had spoken, we will receive response from the Reverend Dr. Afriyie, who is also a senior lecturer at the Trinity Theological Seminary. And she also coordinates the Master of Divinity program at the Trinity Theological Seminary. Shall we all, with our digital applause, first welcome Prof. Azumah, who will be the main presenter. Then after that, Dr. Afriyie would come in. And also to notify us that we are streaming this live on Facebook. Let's also share the Zoom link with friends and remind them to join us. Prof, over to you, please.
It's a pleasure to have you all here. And this is a very important, but at the same time, a very delicate topic. It touches on all kinds of nerves and emotions and feelings and lives. And I want to handle it from that perspective too. So the topic, as you can all see, is the Bible and witchcraft belief in Africa. So what we want to do is look at witchcraft belief from the African perspective, what African thought says about witchcraft. Then we will look at it from the Old Testament, Hebrew Bible, the Greek Bible, the Latin use of the words witch and witchcraft, and we also look at some of the translations into English. And then we look at some vernacular translations of the word in the scriptures. And then we will draw our conclusions, what we think the biblical perspective on this topic is about. We are all familiar with the biblical text of Exodus 22:18, which says that thou shalt not suffer a witch to live. In other words, witches must be hunted and witches must be killed. That is the popular notion and belief for those who take the Bible literally and take it seriously. So let's hold that text in our minds as we go through the presentation. So witchcraft accusations are very common in Ghana. In fact, the witch camps are in two specific regions in the northern part of the country, the northern region and the northeastern region. That is where the witch camps are. So this is one of the group, the camps that I visited and took a photo of some of the women. And you can see that they are in this particular camp, they are all women. And this is just a section, a small proportion of the number of victims in that camp. So accusations are real in Ghana. So what is witchcraft belief in African cosmology? And I want to say that if you look at the definition of witchcraft by John Mbiti, he calls it comes under the whole category of good magic and evil magic or bad magic. The former is used by specialists such as medicine men for the welfare of the community. whereas evil magic is used to harm human beings or their property. And it is within the latter, the evil part of it, evil magic, that witchcraft comes under. So within African cosmology, witchcraft is evil. It's evil magic. But within that same African thought or cosmology, the evil does not necessarily reside in the witchcraft itself as a force. The belief is that witchcraft in the hands of men can be good magic. Men generally use it to protect and to provide, whereas the same power, witchcraft in the hands of women, becomes evil, becomes harmful and dangerous. And so for me, in my thinking, looking at this belief, the evil does not reside in the witchcraft. The evil resides in the womanhood, because it is in the hands of woman that witchcraft becomes dangerous. So bear that in mind, good magic, bad magic. Witchcraft in the hands of men is good. Witchcraft in the hands of women is evil. And you can make out what you want to make out of that. So witchcraft is also been described by Ivan Pritchard from the Azandi perspective. The Azandi, they believe that witchcraft is based on a theory of causation. There's a cause and effect. A misfortune is due to a cooperation with natural forces. If a buffalo gores a man, or the support of a granary are undermined by termites and it falls on its head, or he is infected with cerebrospinal meningitis, the Azandis say that the buffalo, the granary, and the disease are causes which combine with witchcraft to kill a man. Witchcraft does not create the buffalo and the granary and the disease, for these exist in their own right. But it is responsible for the particular situation in which they are brought into lethal relations with a particular man. The granary would have fallen in any case, but since there was witchcraft present, it fell at the particular moment when a certain man was resting beneath it. In other words, witchcraft has not got its own agency. It uses other agents, other means. It can be a buffalo, it can be a granary, it can be a tree, it can be a human being. It can be a vehicle, it can be anything. So witchcraft has not got its own agency. The combination of witchcraft and any of these force factors is what brings about the effect of witchcraft. So that is the Azande belief of witchcraft. And if you look at the Akan thought, witchcraft in Akan thought, this is what Johannes Christola describes witchcraft in Akan belief. He said, the natives describe a wizard or a witch as a man or woman who stands in some disagreement or in some agreement with the devil. At night, when all are asleep, he or she, the witch, rises or rather leaves his or her body as a snake casts its slop and goes out emitting flames from his eyes, nose, mouth, ears, armpits. He may walk with his head on the ground and his feet up. He catches and eats animals or kills men either by drinking their blood or by catching their soul, which he boils and eats, whereupon the person dies, or he bites them that they become full of sores. Some change themselves into leopards, snakes, antelopes. Some apply their witchcraft also to trade when selling things. This is witchcraft in Akan thought. It is persons who have the ability to transform themselves into different forms of appearances, and they fly about in the night, emitting flames or light from different parts of their bodies. And their main aim is to catch human beings and eat them spiritually. So this is the Akan belief in witchcraft. So add that to the Azande belief, and then you see the African understanding of witchcraft. Now, in northern Ghana, where I come from myself, the Mamprose have a very strong belief in witchcraft. Of course, it's very common to all ethnic groups. But Gambaga, where the oldest witch camp is in the Mamprose area. And Susan Draka Brown did some studies on witchcraft amongst the Mamprose. And this is what she says: witches attack at night, invisibly devouring. The verb commonly used is nwabri, to chew and swallow the bodies of their victims, typically causing lingering illness and death. A victim will often see the witch or witches attacking, and accusations might be made by a victim during illness or by the mother of a small child if, as often happened, a child was the victim. So sometimes the accusation can come from an alleged victim or a supposed victim who would say that my sickness is being caused by so and so in the family. And the witches, they eat, they chew the body, the souls of human beings and swallow them. That's the belief amongst the Mamprose in the northern part of Ghana too. So all of this gives you an idea of African belief and witchcraft. So what does the Bible say? Let's look at the Hebrew word for witch or witchcraft. In Hebrew, the word that is used is mekashafa, from the root word kashav, which means to whisper or mutter magical words or incantation, to practice magic. Again, we come back to the word magic that Mbiti used at the outset. It's about magic. It's about the magical use of formulas, of words, of a combination of certain phrases that can have an effect. To some experts, the word denotes one who practices magic by using occult formulas, incantations, and mystic mutterings, while some lexicons say the word is probably herbs shredded into a magic brew. This root verb probably means to cut and could refer to herbs cut for charms and spells. So that mekashafa or kashav was used mainly to denote magical practices combined with the use of herbs for healing, but it could also be used for harmful purposes. So witchcraft in that sense was not just evil. It was essentially good, but it could be used for evil purposes. In that case, witchcraft was like medicine in modern day terms, medicine, medical practice. We know of medical practitioners, their work is to save life. Doctors, nurses, they are there to save lives. And that's what the vast majority, 99.9% of them do. But even within that, you find a small element who can use that knowledge to cause harm deliberately. You know of doctors who deliberately kill, or nurses who deliberately kill. Or you find that a lot of death in Ghana and many other African countries through the medical fraternity is negligence. So even though it's essentially for good purposes, it can become harmful if used wrongly or applied wrongly or for by evil intent. That is what mekashafa was about in the Hebrew lexicon. In Greek, in the Septuagint, mekashafa was translated as pharmakia. Pharmakia. The Septuagint is the Greek translation of the Old Testament, which was made back in the 3rd century for Greek-speaking Jews who were living in the diaspora. So the word mekashafa was translated as pharmakia into Greek, which some lexicons translate as herbalist, others as poisoner by use of a poisonous herbal concoction. So again, here you see that it is essentially good, herbalist, but if you combine it with some poisonous herbs, it can become dangerous. And it could be used for good purposes, but a few would use it or could use it for harmful purposes also. So in the New Testament, the Greek word magio, where we get the word magic, magician, or sorcerer, is used to denote using magic, occultic formulas, recitations, and whispering to cast spells. That is what magic was in the Greek world. It is the use of words. Again, so pharmakia came under all of that. It was not just the herbs, but you recite certain words on the herbs that makes it either that brings about its potency for good or for harm.
Good afternoon, everybody. And Prof, thank you very much for your presentation. It has opened my eyes to many things. It has opened my eyes to many things. And I want to begin my response by looking at this whole phenomenon of witchcraft among African people, among the Akan of Ghana, especially. Many Akan people believe that there is that which is known as witchcraft, Beyi. And when you talk to them, they will tell you that it really exists. This whole idea of witchcraft, as we see it among African peoples, is not something that is peculiar to us as Africans. In almost all human communities, there is this belief in witchcraft, the existence of, if you like, the existence of forces that can destroy human beings. And Asariopoku has said that there are some communities, like the Australian Aborigines, they don't have this whole concept of witchcraft, which is who wobri human beings, which is who chew human beings. They don't have it. And also he talks about the Bushmen of the Kalahari in Namibia. They also don't have it. But generally, people believe that there is an evil spirit known as witchcraft, Beyi, among the Akan. We can talk about good Beyi and bad Beyi. So people say, oh, somebody's Beyi is good. He or she uses it for good things, and where it is bad, it is destructive. Prof mentioned that normally, when witchcraft is in the hands of men, it is good. And when it is in the hands of women, it is evil. Well, among the Akan, it is possible to find a woman who has Beyi and uses it for good, and to find a man who has Beyi and uses it for evil. The belief is that one male Beifo, one male who has witchcraft, has the power of 10 women who are witches. This is something that many people talk about among the Akan. So we do not normally think that witches are all women. There are some men who are also witches. And we say they are called wizards. They also use it for evil things. But our attention has been drawn this afternoon to the fact that if we are thinking of witches in the light of the Bible, then the view of the African on witchcraft, on witches, is something that does not exist in Scripture. And of course, Prof has taken us through a lot of scriptures, Old Testament, New Testament, and the translations and all, proving to us that the word that has actually been translated in some Bible as witchcraft does not actually mean the kind of witchcraft that we know about, but that it has something to do with magic and medicine and all that. So when the Bible talks about not permitting a witch to live, it's not about the witch that chews human flesh and destroys things, but perhaps it has to do with magic. My thing then is that, does the fact that the Bible does not have the concept that the African has of witchcraft mean that witchcraft does not exist? Does it mean that witchcraft does not exist? The kind of witchcraft that Africans talk about, does it mean that it doesn't exist? And at the end, we are being asked, after hearing all these things, would we still say that witchcraft as we know it in Africa is real, whether it exists or not? One thing that I would want us to think about is the fact that Africans or the Akan people can testify to experiences that they have had with what they refer to as witchcraft. The kind of spirit that enters people and enables them to destroy, enables them to kill, enables them to do evil in society. We may talk about people who are forced to make confessions, but sometimes there are people who are not forced to make confessions, and yet they make confessions of things that they have done. The world of science, scientists would talk about psychological issues. That somebody who begins to say, oh, I have done this and I have done that and I am a witch, may be having psychological problems. But we also have to ask ourselves, is it always the case that they are having psychological problems? Could it be that they may be speaking the truth? Is there really a witchcraft spirit that makes people do things that are not right in society? It becomes an issue for us to look at, especially now that we have all the deliverance ministries going on, where people will make confessions not because anybody is forcing them, but because somehow they have come to a point. And sometimes when you listen to the things that they say, you realize there is some truth in what they are saying. So this whole idea of witchcraft being present in the Akan world cannot be overlooked. We cannot say that, oh, it is just a phenomenon that the people have over the years come to build up to explain certain things that happen in their midst that, they cannot explain. So instead of just saying that, look, the thing does not exist, it's only in our minds, we need to look at witchcraft again. Is it something that is real? They can't say we cannot overlook the fact that there is this phenomenon, something we need to look at again. But then what becomes an issue for us now is the fact that people are accused of being witches, and then they are thrown out of their homes, and they live in great suffering. That is what we need to look at. If you look at the history of the witch camps, you will see that it doesn't really come from the biblical background at all. It was the case that if somebody was found to be a witch, according to the religion of the people, if the priest said somebody was a witch, the people would say, we can't live with a witch. Not the Christian priest, the traditional priest. And so the people, when they didn't have anywhere to live, would move and live in a place. And they would be supervised by, as I was reading, the Tindana, and I believe that is the leader of the place. And he would have, so these camps, and that is why Prof said that they are supervised by priests. These camps are part of the religion of the people. They are the ones who say this person is a witch. And then the whole society turns against them. And when they leave, they also offer them a place where they can live. But they do not really take good care of them. And based upon that, it is right to say that nobody can accuse another person of being a witch. Because you see, as we saw, all the things that witches are accused of doing are done spiritually. Nobody sees. If somebody says you killed so and so, there is no physical evidence that you killed the person. It then becomes an accusation with no evidence. And yet that accusation can get the one who is accused into trouble. And it may be that what has been said is not true. So why should somebody accuse another person of evil? And then everybody believes that that is what it is. And then these people are caused to suffer. And the sad thing, as Prof has said, is that most of the people who are thus accused tend to be women. So even if it is the priest who says this person is a witch, the priest says it, and it happens to be a woman that is being accused, and it is the women who suffer. Meanwhile, like I have already said, there are men who are also witches. As in Akan belief, there are men who have the witchcraft spirit. A few years ago, in the 70s, in a place around Accra, the area we call Dakuman, people who are conversant with that area know that there used to be a traditional priestess there called Okomfo Nyameche, who was catching witches. She moved from place to place, and she would go to people's homes and say that this woman here And they were always women. I don't know why. Is a witch. And then the person would confess and they would talk about witch pots and things that have been hidden in places. I don't know how many of those of us here this afternoon know about Okomfo Nyameche, but that was what she was. She was a traditional priestess. And she was the one who would then take on these people and say that she was going to exorcise them. These witch camps, started by traditional priests, tell us that what they are doing doesn't actually have anything to do with God having said that do not suffer a witch to live. They were doing their own thing. They were doing their traditional things. As for witchcraft, we have been born into a society that believes in it. If anybody comes and says, oh, witchcraft does not exist, I wonder how people will react to that. And especially looking at a statement Prof has just made, says that people who don't believe in God, for them, God does not exist. But you see, whether we believe in God or not, God exists. That is one truth. So for us to think that witchcraft exists for those who believe, and that if you don't believe in it, it doesn't exist, it becomes another thing. You may not believe in it, but it may not take away the fact that it exists, if it really does exist. Having said it all, and especially understanding that we are seeking to address an issue of women being badly treated, especially because they are being accused of being witches. I would say that nobody, not even the traditional priest, has the right to say that somebody is a witch without the right evidence. Nobody has the right to accuse somebody of having the witchcraft spirit. And because of that, getting this accused person into the kind of mess that the women in the witch camps are in. When we looked at the pictures, the women sitting there are ordinary women. Most of them may not have any witchcraft spirit in them. That is not to say some of them may not have. But what tells you that they have it? And what do you do when you realize that you falsely accused somebody and put the person into trouble? Biblically, the kind of witchcraft that we have in Africa, among the Akan, and among the Ga people too, I guess it's among all Ghanaian people. That kind of witchcraft is not mentioned in the Bible. But that also does not mean that this whole idea that the African has cannot be true. It may be true. And we need to look more at it. If somebody has witchcraft, how may we help the person instead of banishing the person from our midst, instead of letting the person suffer? If somebody has African witchcraft, what can the church do to help the person? Prof talked about exorcising people who are demon possessed. Can we also talk about taking the witchcraft spirit out of people. Some people are born with the spirit, according to research. Some people acquire witchcraft. And when you read Prof. Opoku Onyene's book, he mentions that sometimes it is acquired. Asari Opoku also talks about it, talks about how people get the spirit. Sometimes it's put in food or a gift or something, whatever it is. I believe that it can be taken out of a person, and it must be done the way Christ would do it. Instead of building camps and putting the people in the camps when we know that they have nothing to eat, when we know that they have nothing to live on. We cannot call ourselves Christians and look on as people suffer just because perhaps they have an evil spirit, when our Lord has told us that he has given us authority over these evil spirits. I do not think that the witchcraft spirit is stronger than Jesus Christ and the power that he has. So yes, let us begin to look at the accusations that are being made. Not because the kind of witchcraft that we are talking about is not in the Bible, but because the people themselves who have the spirit of witchcraft in them are made in the image of God. J.S. Poby says that the human being himself or herself is not evil. It is the spirit that is in them that is evil. And with that, the church must deal the spirit in them and treat the human beings as beings made in the image of God. I think that perhaps I have said enough, and I'm just hoping that I haven't confused things for anybody. Our witchcraft is not mentioned in the Bible. But then perhaps we are saying something that the world must listen to. But the fact that our witchcraft is as it is does not mean that human beings that we think have them should be maltreated. And we should also stop thinking that it is only women who are witches. Thank you very much. I will end here.